there's no end. Like, your home continues to grow with you and evolve with you. And this idea that like a home is done it should never be done. It's always a work in progress.
That's Ariel Kaye, founder and CEO of Parachute. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're in Ariel Kaye's home in Los Angeles, California, talking about living intently, creating comfortable spaces, and turning a house into a home, an area where Ariel is an expert. She's the founder and CEO of Parachute, the direct-to-consumer brand known for its premium quality sheets, towels, robes, rugs, and more. And outside of work, she's a homebody who loves to entertain and make her guests feel at ease. In this conversation, she shares her love for home and what it means to her to share her passion with millions of people like her. Make Yourself at Home with Ariel Kaye. Ariel, thank you so much for having us into your home. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Thank you for having me.
So start setting the stage for us and tell me a little bit about your home and why you love it.
I have lived in my home for about a year and a half now. So it's still becoming a home. You know, it takes time, and that process is, I think, such a fun experience. Turning an empty canvas into a space that really represents you and your family and is really purposeful and intentional. But I love where I live. I love the neighborhood. I love the space. It's a big open floor plan. I love that I can hear my kids running upstairs when I'm downstairs cooking. I love that we have yard space. It's the first home that has a pool, which in Los Angeles is lovely and something you can use year round. But really, it's just been such a joy to, watch my kids grow over the past year and a half. They're pretty young, so just seeing them and watching the home evolve with them and with us has been really special.
Yeah, and you had kids sort of during the pandemic, right? Tell me a little bit about how your home has changed and evolved over the last couple of years.
So I've lived in many homes over the last few years. I lived in Venice in a little bungalow for a few years. That was 700 square feet. That's where my daughter was born. That's where we lived at the beginning of the pandemic. And she started walking in the first week of the pandemic. We were home. Things got really crowded really quickly. I got pregnant. And so it was obviously time for us to get just a bit more space. And so we moved into kind of a temporary landing place for us to bring home the second baby, to have a little bit more space, an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom. And we were there for about 6 months before moving here. So I had the great fortune of moving while I was about 6.5, 7 months pregnant, and then again with a 2-month-old.
Oh, no.
Which was wild, to say the least. There's there's plenty of exciting things about moving, and I love the process of purging and thinking about what you're going to take and what you're going to let go of, and just creating new space, but doing it extremely pregnant and with a newborn are both very challenging.
Yes. On this show, we love to talk about what home means to you. And as somebody who has built their career now around home and creating beautiful spaces and creating intentional spaces, tell me a little bit about what home means to you.
I mean, home is everything to me. We talk a lot about Parachute, about how special home is, and that's why they say there's no place like it. Home to me is so much more than just the physical four walls. It's the comfort, it's the community, it's the laughter, it's the long meals, it's the early mornings and the late nights, it's the feeling that you get when you're home, that safety, that comfort, that security, that place of warmth. And I think you can create that environment in many places outside of your home as well. But there's something very special about home and being that place that you come home to every day and you start your day. And home for me, I want my home to feel as energizing as it is relaxing. I want it to be a place that can fill me up and also can let me release. And so I think about my home in a really intentional way, in a really purposeful way, and creating spaces that just help me fulfill my needs and the needs of my family. And I think that can look very different for individuals and every person. But, when I think about home, I think it should be unique. It should be about what makes you feel good. And I think there's been so much pressure with Instagram and with social media and with Pinterest and this idea of what a home should look like. And I just try to focus on, obviously I want to live in a beautiful space that's aesthetically pleasing. But to me, it's way more about how does my home work for me and how does it make sense for my lifestyle and my family. And I love hosting and I love entertaining and I love having friends over and I want to be comfortable in a mess and I want to be comfortable with imperfection and I don't want anything to feel too precious. And maybe that changes as kids get older but for now I try to have a very livable but beautiful home because aesthetics are important to me as well, but it has to be livable. I don't want to spend my time chasing after my kids or my kids' friends being like, don't touch this, don't touch that, I mean, some of that's just, I do, but, to an extent.
Right.
But I don't want that to consume me. Mm-hmm. I have to be able to let life happen at home.
And I love how you said you want your home to be both, relaxing and energizing. And when you think about building Parachute, you're the founder of Parachute and you've created this beloved home brand and you really started early on doing it all yourself. And now you've grown it into, a household name. So as you look back on your experience building Parachute, can you think of some moments where your home really fueled you and gave you what you needed in your startup journey?
Yeah, I mean, my love for home started because of my love for hosting. I lived in New York for many years. That was where I had my first apartment. I went to school there. And I just, I'm a introvert extrovert. I love having people around me, but I also love to do it at home. And I think my love for home really started because I loved having people over. I loved, saying stop by and then watching people linger because they felt comfortable. And there was just this magic in that for me that was so just lovely and made me so happy, happier than I think I had ever felt. There was just a new happiness I was in my own space. I had my own community and people loved to be there. And that was this aha moment for me. And I became really motivated to just create spaces for different types of events at home. I wanted people to stay. I wanted to be the place when I said, I'm having people over, everyone said, yes, I'll be there because they knew it would be so fun and it would be welcoming and it would be just relaxing and it would, no pressure and it just would feel good. And so in my first apartments, there were a few, I just became really excited about kind of DIY projects and I was always switching things up and decorating and redecorating, moving things around. And it was something that was really fun for me. And it extended then to me helping friends do the same thing. So when my friends would move, they'd say, will you come shopping with me? Will you help me set up? My sister was working in politics. And so she was doing campaign life. And so she was moving to new cities every year. And so I would fly out wherever she was and help her make her house a home. And so it just was something that I had my career on the side. I was working in advertising, but this home experience was really just something that I felt very passionate about. And so when I had my moment of wanting to leave my big agency life and I wanted to start a business, or I didn't know that I wanted to start a business, but I wanted to do something different. My aha moment was I have to do something in the home space. Like, I'm not an interior designer. I'm not trained to be an interior designer, but I have this love for creating these spaces. And what if I could merge my interests in home and design and also building brands, which I was doing in advertising. And along the way, I'd started an interior design blog and was kind of just like having fun with sharing the spaces that I was helping to design and sharing my DIY projects at home. And I was just loving it. It was just filling me up in a way that my career wasn't. And so, all of a sudden it dawned on me that what if that could be my life? And so, my love for home and design and where Parachute came into place was, I wanted to sell physical products. I knew I wanted to start small and focused. I had this idea that it could be this larger, all home encompassing brand, but the bedroom felt like that most intimate part of the home where, if I could transform someone's sleep experience, like that, what a powerful value proposition to then, create loyal following and just get people excited about the brand and build trust. So that's how it kind of came to be.
How it came to be. Amazing. And I want to back up a little bit and talk about your childhood home. Have you always been kind of a homebody? Is that something that was always important to you, even as a kid?
So I grew up in a very modest house, but somehow it was the house that everyone wanted to hang out at. My parents loved having us over. I think they just were way happier knowing where we were, what we were doing at home versus out and about. And so, I certainly didn't have the biggest house, but it was the house that everyone congregated. My mom was at, a moment's notice, was happy to cook everyone a meal, always wanted to make sure that people were happy, fed, comfortable. And so, there was a part of my childhood and upbringing that made home feel important. And I think this idea of just welcoming people in and creating community and hosting was something that I enjoyed doing inherently because it was something that, my mom encouraged, although I think probably we had different motivations,
Makes sense.
the community element of, and like being at home and having fun at home and, was something I always appreciated and enjoyed. My mom loved throwing holiday parties and, we're Jewish and we celebrated Shabbat, and my mom loved having friends over for Shabbat on Fridays, and we loved coming over and, eating loaves and loaves of challah. And, it was just like that was a part of our childhood. And so, that's something, when I bought this house and moved in, one of the things that was most important to me was having a house that would be great for hosting, so that I could, never leave and have people over.
That's the ideal situation. And thinking about early on with Parachute. So you had the idea in New York City, and you had, kind of found your love of hosting, in that little New York City apartment. And then as you started building, you decided to move to LA. So tell me about that move and why that felt like the right place for you. It's funny to hear you tell the story because it's like you found this love of community and hosting and having people into your home in New York. And then I can imagine that uprooting and moving to somewhere else in the middle of all that could almost like make you miss that sense of hosting and community.
For sure. I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, so moving to LA was, moving back home. So I did have, some of a community here with friends who I've grown up with, who remained here, other people that had moved home. I had been in New York for almost 10 years. And I think, when I decided to start this business, I had this idea that I'd be bicoastal, which was like a nice thought, less practical. And so I actually found someone who was also bicoastal to kind of live in my house. And we were like going to do like housing swaps and like that lasted like, a month before it became not practical. But yeah, it was a big transition for me. I mean, I think, people actually assumed that moving back home or moving back to a place that you've lived before would be easy, but I hadn't lived there in almost 10 years. And so it was, in many ways, felt like I was moving to a new place. I mean, so much had changed. I was coming home maybe once or twice a year for a short weekend. Living in New York, it's a lot easier to have people come visit. So my parents always came and visited. I didn't have as much reason to go home as regularly. And it was a big adjustment, finding my community, even though I had a community, but integrating into that world. And, it's just, finding your footing. And also I was pretty heads down building parachutes. So, actually going out or having fun was like not as big of a priority for me. But I did move around a bit. I mean, I lived at home, and then I got an apartment, and then I wanted to live somewhere else. I mean, there was a bunch of kind of bouncing around and feeling a bit lost. And until I moved, I finally found a place that really did feel like home, and I had some great roommates, and I just, but I was working all the time. And I had joined this accelerator program, which gave me an office space. And there were 10 other companies there, and we were all in like pre-launch mode. And so we were all working till 2, 3 a.m. And so then I found this community with these other entrepreneurs, which was so valuable for me. And easily, I don't know that I would be where I was today without that kind of community at those early days, because starting a business, especially as a sole founder, can feel like you're on an island of one. It can be very lonely and isolating, not having a team or support, not having anyone to commiserate with. And so having that community of other people that were in a similar stage and in a similar place. And even though we were all building very different businesses, we kind of all were trying to solve the same problems in our own ways. And so having that community of other founders and entrepreneurs was just so valuable, and really was a game changer for me as far as my, just my sense of self and community and mental health and all of it, it was, those early days are really hard. They really are.
Yep. It makes sense. And you were sort of heads down, like you said, all in. How did your life start to change as your business started to take off?
Well, the business I launched in January 2014, and it took off quite quickly. I mean, it was I saw this growth almost immediately. Going from like 1 or 2 orders a day with people that I could kind of, figure out how they were connected to me by some degree of association, to like these are people that have no connection to me or anyone I know in places I've never been, or towns and cities I've never heard of, it just all of a sudden became really real really quickly. And I was able to bring on some early capital and raise a seed round, and I was able to hire a few people in those early months. And so the proof of concept for me happened early on. I was very clear that people were excited about the brand and the idea and this value proposition. And, I launched the business, around the time that kind of D2C businesses were really taking off. And so I wasn't having to like explain to consumers that, you cut out the middleman and there's this extra value, and, you can get these premium products for a more accessible price. Like other people had already done that. But, being able to bring on a team, watching sales organically grow quite quickly, it was so inspiring. I mean, and people ask me all the time, like, what keeps you motivated? I mean, having consumers and customers and people say, I love your brand. Like, I mean, it still stops me in my tracks and makes me like overwhelmed, it doesn't get old at all. And so that helped me fuel the fire. And certainly there were like a million hiccups and missteps and all of the things that happen in the early years, where you also, I would go from feeling like this is going to be amazing to we're done, like, in the course of 20 minutes or 5 minutes sometimes. But I think that just like the customer excitement really inspired me to keep going. And then also having a team of people. So I didn't feel like I was on an island of one anymore. I mean, I did sometimes, but like I had people to help and support and teach me, and that were experts in areas of the business that I wasn't, and that all gave me space to focus on the things that I loved. And yeah.
Can you think of a moment in one of those low lows where your home or your own personal life lifted you up and took you out of that moment of, oh, we're done?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a place to crawl into bed and just like let myself feel the feelings. I think as an entrepreneur, especially once you have investors involved and you have other team members and you're trying to be strong for everyone, I think more and more people are talking about the importance of vulnerability and asking for help, and like, you don't have to always be right. Like you can say, I don't know the answer to this. And that shows up as a strength, not as a weakness. But in the early days, I felt like I had to be kind of like a robot. Like I couldn't show any sort of weakness or any sort of vulnerability. That was really hard for me. And so I think my home, it's kind of like a toddler. They're like at school all day and they're like holding it together. And then they come home and like fall apart. Yes. Maybe that's just my child. But I think that my home was sort of like that for me. Like I was like holding it together. I was like working so hard. I was trying to be so strong. I was like, letting everything, like not letting anything bother me. And then I would go home and I would be able to just be like, oh my gosh, like, and I was able to have moments where I could be vulnerable with myself and, let myself feel feelings in a way that I was, really trying to avoid all day long. And I'm glad that I feel like that's not as much of a thing anymore. But yeah,
Was there an out of the woods moment?
There's never really an out of the woods moment. It's just that, I mean, I think I'm way, way more comfortable saying, I don't know what I'm doing, like who does, type of thing. Or saying like, I need someone to do this so I can do that. Like I think it's just, I look at one of my superpowers as being very self-aware of what I'm good in and my strengths are and where my weaknesses are. And now I see that as like being able to raise my hand and say, I can do that, but I can't do this. Like, so like, who's going to do that? Or, let's hire someone that's excellent at this, that all has played out in a very important way for the brand and for me. But yeah, I mean, I think my home was just like, it was long days, like long hours. It was like, there's so much adrenaline at the early days of starting the brand and so much excitement and all these wins and whatever loses, but like you like focus on the wins and you're go, go, go. And I think having a place to just like breathe was definitely important.
And now you're able to give that gift of being able to create a sanctuary to so many other people through the products that you're creating at Parachute. So what does that mean to you to be able to share that and help other people create a more comfortable home?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so lucky that my job is to help people feel more comfortable. And like I said, I mean, when I meet people or when a friend calls me and is like, I'm obsessed with this. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'd live without it. Like, this is the best thing ever. Or like, I'm living in your robe, or, like this blanket is like changing my life. I mean, those things, like I said, like they make me emotional. Like it's like it's so motivating for me and so inspiring and makes me so happy. Like it truly so happy. And, I think during the pandemic, when everyone was stuck at home, to be able to be a part of people's comfort and people's reprieve during such a challenging time where we weren't able to really leave our homes. I mean, it was a difficult time for everyone, but I felt so much joy in knowing that our products were making someone's experience just, a little bit better. or sweeter or more comfortable or, and so, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've got the best job in the world, It's like, my job is to find comfortable things that people can use. It's like, how cool.
What a great job. And what a gift you're able to share with people. That's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the little things, I think, and that to me is, home is so important in the fact that we're part of so many people's lives, and, I can't count how many times people say, I sleep with you every night, but it's like a funny joke, but also it's like incredible, it's an amazing thing that people are loving our products and that they care about them and that they see them adding real value. So,
and in their most like quiet moments, the moments that they really can
totally. Yeah, they're the most intimate moments. That's why I wanted to start with a bedroom. Like I said, these are like you spend a third of your life in bed and your sleep impacts every part of your life. And, I thought if I could just improve one person's sleep experience, how cool is that? And, we've done that for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe I think over 1 million people, it's incredible.
And you wrote a book, How to Make a House a Home. Tell me a little bit about that and how you think about making a house a home.
So the book is it's a different kind of take. It's not an interior design book. It's not like a how to do this. There's no like rules. A lot of home books can be really prescriptive. I wanted this one to be more like emotive and emotional about like how you experience your home. And so it's really all about creating purposeful personal space. And so, there's a lot of different chapters and a lot of different kind of focus points, but the book, weaves through stories about my own experience moving from place to place and my learnings along the way in a personal way, but also encourages people to ask themselves questions about how they're living their life and like how they can make their space more functional. And I think, it came out month 1 of the pandemic, which was a funny time to launch a book, but also like, the content could not have been more applicable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is about it's not about like, you got to demo this house or like you got to like break down walls. It's like a lot about thinking about the space that you have and how you can reimagine it and how you can create versatility and how you can organize your space so that the things that you need and want that are most accessible are the things you use every day, and the things that you maybe need less are, and like how you just like sort your life so that your home is working for you and fulfilling you and serving you, because that's kind of what it should. And so, it's for it's for anyone. It's not for someone that, is doing a ground up build and is trying to, solve major design problems. It's more about like, how do you shop your own home to create a space to like reimagine your space if you're sick of looking at the same 4 walls every day, which like it turned out, especially over the last few years, a lot of people had that experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Wanting to kind of reimagine. But it was a fun book to write, and yeah, it was fun.
And thinking about creating purposeful space and living intently, what's a space that you've created with purpose in your new home?
I would say like the living family room area. It's a place where everyone gathers. I have a couch that is quite large so that, a lot of people can sit on it together. And it's a place where we can watch shows, but I've also created storage places for like kids' books and games and things that can easily be put away but easily accessed. I have candles available. Like just like I've created a lot of optionality for the room. So it can be a place to eat takeout. It can be a place to get cozy. It can be a place to read a book. Some of that was also how I use lighting in that space. So there's a lot of different lighting options, which is actually part of the book, is how lighting and layering lighting can create many different moods. So like a lot of people think about just like the overhead lighting that comes with your house, but adding in floor lamps or sconces, which don't have to even be wired. They can be plugged in, like can create different vibes and moods within your space. So like if I'm doing work or like reading, I might want the light a certain way. If I'm like getting more cozy, the space transforms with these very subtle, simple changes. And that's something that I've done throughout my house. I just think lighting is like a secret sauce that people don't think about as much. And it's really easy to layer in different forms of lighting in ways that can be really beautiful also and like aesthetically pleasing, but also have such a tremendous impact on the vibe.
And you mentioned earlier how entertaining was a big priority when you moved. What did you look for in your house when you were looking around at different houses, and what called to you about this house, and how did you make it a better space for entertaining when you moved in?
So I loved the open floor plan, the fact that like you could, when you're downstairs, you can kind of be anywhere and see everyone. Like you might have to like look around a little bit, but it's very open, and it opens out to the yard. And so on a hot summer day, the doors can open and, you have that indoor outdoor experience. So like kids can be outside playing and you can be inside in the kitchen. I also used a lot of the space for a very, very large dinner table. I wanted to be able to seat, up to like 14 people comfortably. I have yet to have a 14-person dinner party, but one day. But so I really I took a space that could have been used for multiple different things and was just like, we're going dining, we're going big. And it's connected to the kitchen. I think for so many people, the kitchen is the heart of the home. No matter what, people seem to congregate there. It's just like everyone wants to be in the kitchen, and the kitchen's sort of the center of this open floor plan. So you've got kind of living spaces on both sides, and you've got a great view outside from the kitchen. And but really it was just about having enough seating, both inside and outside, and spaces to lounge and hang, so that, we could someday host a serious dinner party.
Gotta love that. Amazing.
Yeah.
And looking back at yourself as a kid or early on in your career when you were working more in brand and advertising, do you think that you would be surprised to find out that you ended up here?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't think anyone would have pegged me as an entrepreneur. But yes and no. I think I always kind of followed an unconventional path. When I went to school, I went to NYU, and I was in the School of Individualized Study, so I got to make up my own major. Like, I really did not feel like I could fit into one of the more traditional majors. It was like, sure, I like communications, but I also like, art, and I also want to study media, and I also want, like, it was very hard for me to pick a lane. And that continued as I had internships and in my first jobs, I was bouncing around a lot. I would join a company and be like, after 6 months, nah, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not feeling like really connected here, which some may say is not a great sign. But for some reason, I was just like, I'm just going to trust my gut here. Like, I want to feel like I'm making an impact. I want to be a part of something. And if I'm not, like, I got bored very easily. And I think, so in some ways it's surprising. In other ways, like, of course I needed to start my own company. Like, I would have been bored anywhere else. And I need to always be learning. Like, otherwise I kind of I get bored. Like, I want to be pushing myself and learning and growing. And I certainly do that every day at Parachute. Like, I am always learning. I'm always trying to solve a new problem. I am always learning from my team members. I am so lucky to have built a team of people that are brilliant and way better at their job than I could ever be. And, so it's really fun to be able to deep dive into so many different parts of a brand and a business that I otherwise would never have learned. And, but yeah, I wasn't one of those people early on that was like, set on starting my own company. But I do think I had a lot of friends and that were joining early stage startups or starting their own companies around the time that I was kind of noodling on this idea of doing it myself, and seeing them be so inspired and like cancel dinner plans and skip parties and want to work so hard and be so heads down. Like there was something like, to me, I was like, wait, I want that too. Like I also want to, like, if not now, when? Like there was, it was a little bit masochistic, but like I was just like, like this, I kind of have this once in a lifetime moment to do this before, it's more challenging for me because of whatever. And that's not to say you can't start a business at any stage in life. But for me, I was like, I'm 30. At some point, like, if I have kids, it's going to be harder. Like I had this narrative that like, if not now, when? And so I just did it.
Amazing. And you took what you learned early on in that career where you were working in brand and social media and really applied it at Parachute. And you guys have the most beautiful brand. And really at the heart of it is that sense of comfort. I think it feels very, lived in, but still beautiful and elevated. And I want to get back to what you said earlier about Instagram versus reality. And I can imagine, as the founder of a home brand, especially one that is as beautiful as the one that you've created, it could feel like a lot of pressure to have your home be kind of perfect. How do you think about that? And what would you say to people who, scroll through Instagram and look at all these gorgeous homes and think like, oh, I just wish my home felt like that or looked like that?
I felt so much pressure to make my home look a certain way and to be really elevated and chic and cool and different. Like so much pressure. And I did work with an amazing interior designer to help me with my home because I actually wanted to get out of my own way. I felt like if I knew exactly what my house would have looked like if I designed it. And I was actually really excited to try something different and like add more color. And I really wanted to lean into fun, funky vintage pieces and, mix up my style. And I felt like I needed a teacher to do that. Like I needed some support. And so I worked with an interior designer. But I also, like I said earlier, like I want my house to be a house that can be enjoyed. And so, I don't want to live in a museum. It's just not practical for my life, and having a 2 and a 4-year-old, like that's crazy. So I think you can have both. Like, I think you can have a house that feels good to you and it looks beautiful and also is not like so precious that it can't be enjoyed. But you're right. And most people haven't said that to me, but it's something that I felt so deeply. When I was designing this house, I felt so much pressure to really have this like cool house because of the brand. So it was an interesting like mind game for myself. But I think what's so important about spaces and homes is that they should always be evolving. Like I don't want to live, like I will get bored in this space if I don't evolve it. Like I don't think, like, and I talk about this in my book, actually, like there's no end. Like your home continues to grow with you and evolve with you. And, I have some art on my walls, but I didn't want to feel pressured to fill every wall with art just because I live here. Like I want to frame things that my daughter makes, at school. Like I want space to continue to have the house grow. I certainly have a very livable space. Like there's enough furniture, but to sit on and to be in and to feel complete-ish. But I don't feel like this is like the end of that story, and it's really fun to think about how you can reimagine things or take a chair from one room in the other room, and then all of a sudden you have space for something else in that corner, and what does that mean? And so I feel like this idea that like a home is done is it should never be done. It's always a work in progress.
Yeah. Do you think that you found the right balance with how you feel about that pressure after having kids, or was there an aha moment where you were like, okay, we're going to go with livable and comfortable over, perfect and put together?
I mean, one of the reasons that I worked with my interior designer is because she's 2 kids the same age as me. I mean, like, it's like I mean, I think I'm pretty realistic about that kind of stuff. Like, I don't want to invest in things that my kids are going to destroy. I also do feel like it's important to have things and also show your kids that everything is not made for being picked up and thrown on the ground, like.
True.
I think that's like an important skill set. Otherwise, you can't take your kids out into public, It's like you need them to acknowledge that, like, just because something's there, it doesn't mean it's, for kickball. But yeah, I mean, I think like if I lived alone with no kids, like I probably, my house might look different, like, but maybe not, like, I don't know. My style is not museum vibes. Like, that would never be on my design brief. I mean, I love hosting, like, it's like, I don't let people eat pizza on the couch, but like, I also want people to feel comfortable sitting on the couch after dinner and not, it's like, I think you gotta let go. Yeah. And like, there are crayons on the wall. Like there are, like, and there's, I can repaint it sometime. Like it's not today,
Yep. Makes sense.
I think my sensibility for design has always been about comfort. And that's why I built the brand that I did. And like, for me, comfort is not precious. Like comfort is really cozy, and comfortable. And, when I go into other people's homes where I'm like worried about, like, I don't ever want, like, that's not comfortable for me, and, no shame in that game. Like if that's what you want, true. But like, I want people to walk into my home and feel comfortable and feel at ease and feel like they can relax. And I think in order to do that, you have to create a comfortable lived-in space. And you said it before, and I appreciated it. Our brand is like this perfectly undone, but timeless and elevated. But it's not like we don't do hospital corners, I mean, we can, and our products look beautiful that way. But like, we also have a brand that is designed for, relaxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for regular life. And we've talked
just
a lot.
Life.
Mm-hmm. It's nice. It's realistic. And we've talked a lot today about living intently. And when you think about the future and your life more holistically, even outside of your home, what are you looking for? What are you striving for? How do you want to live intently?
I just want to live like, I mean, for me, it's like all about simple pleasures, Mm-hmm. I want to create easy, welcoming, loving space that just sparks joy and is really simple. Like, I mean, I'm really like happiest doing the simplest things, like a house full of music and laughter and fun and
I was going to ask you as a follow-up, what are your simple pleasures?
Yeah, I mean, good long meals, tequila, like hearing my kids laugh, watching them play together, good times with good friends, a road trip. I try to get down to the beach. I'm lucky enough to live by the beach and try to get down for sunsets when I can. It's like a 5-minute drive, yet sometimes it feels so far. And it's like, just like get in the car and go watch the sunset at the beach. Just like, things like that.
Yep. Well, this has been such a nice conversation, and I love how we were able to talk so much about home. This podcast is all about home, and we often go off on a lot of different tangents, but you love home as much as we do, so this was a great conversation. I love it. I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions, which I suppose the simple pleasures question kind of already got checked off our list. But to start out, what's one thing you remember loving about your childhood bedroom?
I had a full wall, oh God, of Fiona Apple pictures and posters on one side, and like a bunch of, it was like Fiona Apple, Beck, and Rent. That's me in a nutshell in my angsty teen years. Yeah.
Such a good one. What's your household pet peeve?
Dirty, well, I actually am not a no shoes household, but like shoes on the couch or like shoes on just like, things like that. Like,
that's horrible.
Leave your shoes by the door.
Especially after living in New York City, that is, how horrible that can
be. I know.
What's one household chore that you enjoy, and what's one that you hate?
I actually, I enjoy like tidying up. Like I enjoy like walking through and like moving things around and doing that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's really like a chore, but like just like doing the once over, like putting things away. I actually kind of hate laundry. I'd rather do the dishes.
I understand. What is one thing in your home that makes your life easier?
I mean, the support that I have. Organizational support. Every 6 months I have or not really every 6 months, but every year I have organizers come and like make my house a better house.
That is awesome. What's one area that they've organized that you're so happy every time you look at it?
I mean, my garage is actually my happy place. Like, it's insane. We built shelves and like everything is in bins and everything's labeled, and it's like, nice. Everything from, party cutlery and like plates and things to mementos for the kids. And I mean, just like everything, costumes, holiday stuff. Like it's all good.
What's a parachute product you use most in your own home?
I mean, a lot of them, but I would say our cloud cotton robe, our soft rib towels. I shower every day. And right now I'm sleeping on percale sheets with linen duvet cover and our vintage linen throw like blanket on top.
Love it. You're really eating your own dog food. A lot of your own products. I love it.
Yeah. No, there is no bedding bath in this house that is not parachute.
Yeah.
Full stop.
What's one decision you've made about your home that you love?
I mean, there's so many. I really do love my home. I think the way that I've painted rooms, like some different colors and done like plaster to give some texture, like I just feel like there's like the rooms have these personalities, and it's just like such a simple thing that really makes a profound difference and is really beautiful.
What's something that might surprise people about your home?
That there's color in it. I think people look at the brand and we're like kind of neutral. I mean, we've gotten better. We have some really beautiful colors now, but there's actually a lot of color in my house.
That's a good one. Who's someone you admire who you think really lives well?
Martha Stewart.
Of course. She's amazing.
She's the first to come to mind. She's living the dream and looking fab.
She is. She is looking fab. So true. What inspires you to live better?
I mean, my kids always just inspire me to kind of be my best self.
Well, Ariel, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really nice to talk to you, and I really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. It was really fun.
Thank you to Ariel Kaye for welcoming us today. Follow along with her on Instagram at Ariel Kaye and at Parachute Home. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.